is a condition in which temperature is normal than what the set point is for an individual. But you're not going to hear pyrexia. You may hear hyperthermia. You will definitely hear that your client is febrile. Hyperthermia exists when an individual's core temperature is excessively high, and we're talking about temperature that exceeds 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit or 40.6 degrees centigrade or Celsius. Anybody in here ever had a fever? Oh, okay. All right. What are some of the symptoms? Yes. Tired and fatigue. Anyone else? Yeah? Some people get the chills, right? How about sleep? Huh? Either no sleep or excessive sleep. How about the appetite? Some people lose their appetite, right? Low appetite, no appetite, right? Your eyes have photophobia, right? Sensitive to light. You're sweating. And some people have headaches. Your skin is warm to the touch. You may look flushed, reddened. So when you have a fever and you look at the other vital signs, in particularly pulse and respiratory rate, they tend to increase, folks. Increased respiratory rate, increased pulse. And when the temperature is really very, very high, like that person who has hyperthermia, they may experience periods of confusion and disorientation. And children who have very high fevers often develop what we call febrile seizures, convulsions, seizures due to high body temperature. Some people develop cold sores. Somewhere about the nose and the mouth areas, you'll see blisters. Those are people who harbor the herpes simplex virus. First time you're hearing that in here, folks, so make that connection. Herpes, like the herpes virus, is herpes simplex. There are different types. One of them is the STI. The other one is the same virus that causes varicella or chickenpox. So in that family of viruses. A fever has different phases. A fever has different phases. Please note the different phases of a fever. Prodromal phase, the onset or invasion phase, the stationary phase, the resolution phase. These are the different phases of a fever that everyone goes through. Now we're going to look at hypothermia. Hypothermia. Thank you so much. Take Okay, hypothermia. So hypothermia is when the core body temperature is less than 95. And there's different variations of hypothermia. Mildly hypothermic, severely hypothermic. So signs and symptoms of hypothermia look like this. Shivering until body temperature is extremely low. The skin is going to look pale, cool to the touch, and skin may appear puffy. The individual might have impaired muscle coordination. Their heart rhythm may become irregular. So, in hyperthermia, things speed up. In hypothermia, things slow down. So you may have a slow pulse. What is a slow pulse called? Fundamentals, folks? Bradycardia, thank you. And then their thinking is not clear. So they call that incoherent thinking. And they'll have diminished sensation to pain. Hypothermia. Hypothermia. Who may suffer from hypothermia? That's not a rhetorical question. That's a question that I'm looking for an answer. Yes. I'm talking about who may suffer from hypothermia. Give me a scenario.
Seems like an elderly person outside when it's really cold.
Elderly people only? Yep. Infants only? Very nice. It could be anyone, right? Outside in very cold weather, the car stopped working, you got a flat tire, can't move, you know, you're stuck out there waiting for help, you can develop hypothermia. Anyone. Hyperthermia, same idea. Same idea. It could be due to the elements. It could be because of illness. Now we're going to jump to pulse. And we look at the peripheral pulses. You're going to have to do that peripheral pulse sheet until you can identify all 9 pulses. So that means you're going to keep getting that sheet until you get 100%. So I hope you've been looking at it, because you will see it again tomorrow. Spelling counts, folks. Spelling counts. So when you're spelling things, when you're memorizing these anatomical location, practice spelling. So a pulse is produced by the movement of blood during what? The heart doing what? Contracting. Very nice. And what is the normal range? What is the range? 60 to 100. So there are some qualities of a pulse. I did mention this before. The pulse rate tells you how many times per what does the heart beat? How many times per minute? The rhythm tells you whether the pulse is has a normal rhythm or an abnormal rhythm, and the volume speaks to the force at which you are palpating the pulse. Is it full, bounding? Is it weak or thready? And there are peripheral pulses. What happened here, guys, must happen here. And when there's a difference between the two, we call that what? A pulse deficit. What's the most common common site for to obtain a pulse? Radial. What's the site that they check during CPR? No. Carotid. During CPR, when life-saving techniques, we're trying to save somebody's life, we check the carotid for a pulse. In acute care settings, of course. Right now, we don't, when we're engaged in CPR, we don't stop compressions to check a pulse anymore. So, we can obtain a pulse by auscultating the apical pulse. We can auscultate and palpate the radial pulse, and we have to do that sometimes in the presence of a pulse deficit. And sometimes we actually use a Doppler in order to hear the pulse. In the event we're taking someone's pulse and we can hardly hear it, we will use what we call a Doppler, a small ultrasound machine that is going to amplify the sound of the pulse. We palpate or listen for 1 full minute, especially in the presence of an abnormal rate or rhythm. Then we look at respiration. We take for advantage that we breathe. We don't even think about it, but it's a very complex process. There's an exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide. And respiration is the number of ventilations that happen in 1 full minute. So we count an inspiration and expiration as 1. When we're assessing someone's respiratory rate, we do not tell them we're assessing their respiratory rate. We just proceed. Sometimes I'll move from checking someone's pulse to counting their respirations. Or as a provider, when I'm collecting other data, I'm listening to breath sounds, and I will stop listening to breath sounds. The client thinks I am, but I'm actually counting respirations. We try not to tell clients that so they don't change their pattern. It's just something that human beings do normally. Then there's something called Cheyne-Stokes respirations, Cheyne-Stokes, Cheyne-Stokes, and it is an abnormal pattern of breathing in which the depth of respiration, how deep the person is breathing, gradually increases, followed by a decrease in the depth, and then a period where breathing stops altogether. That is an abnormal breathing pattern, Cheyne-Stokes, and it's present in the presence of certain illnesses and disease states. I will show you that pattern. And what does it mean when somebody's breathing really fast? What's the term?